I don't have a timeline on that, so I don't have any update for you on that. I don't have an update on that. I just don't have an update, but I understand the question. So I don't have an update on that. I will have to check in with our team. Again, that I would just going to have to check with our team. I've not seen that report, but I'll check in with our team on that.
I've got former White House Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley literally sitting 7 inches to my right off camera here. It's your whole job to have an update on that. Right? Isn't that the entirety of your job description? That's White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. She was asked which senior White House official eventually told Joe Biden about the baby formula shortage in April, despite being alerted to the shortage in February. In today's PR Pivot.
As you know, the president deals with issues on a regular basis, and that boils up to him. And it's just there's no specific person that I can call out to you, but it's the regular way that we move forward through the regular channels. I don't have a specific person, but that's kind of how it goes on any issue, not just this one. It goes through regular channels, and senior White House staff usually brief him on different issues.
I mean, and when in April, by the way? What if it was the end of April? That means it was like a month ago. Today's June the 3rd. So what if it was like April 28th or something like that, and not early April? Let's widen this out. Welcome in the Powerhouse panel this morning. Radio host and Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps is with us, and in studio, former Deputy Press Secretary, Newsmax contributor Hogan Gidley here, and the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, also a Newsmax contributor, Betsy McCoy here. Hogan, just your reaction to that. I mean, could you imagine being on stage there and not having on stage, up on the podium, I should say, and not having answers to any just basic questions? These aren't humdingers.
Look,
you know?
you do get a lot of questions when you're in that role where you do need to pause and say, let me get some better information, let me find some things out. So I'm going to give her a little grace on that particular issue. However, when you're explaining the process of how the president is briefed or the president gets information, now you're in a big position of defense. It makes no sense to have that conversation from the podium. Remember, it was Karine Jean-Pierre who said that the baby formula crisis was being tackled head on by this administration. It was a whole of government approach. And then when she was asked about who's running it, she didn't know and said, I'm going to have to get back to you. So apparently they've been working on this since the beginning of the year, and she still doesn't have a name of someone who's working on it. I mean, what she's trying to do is circle back, like circle back Psaki. Yeah. But she's not trying to use the phrase circle back because I think Psaki trademarked
now,
it.
and NBC owns that phrase now.
So this has just been a disaster from top to bottom.
Kelly Sadler was in yesterday, Betsy, and she said, basically Donald Trump was on Twitter. And this was an asset because he would never miss something like this. And I never thought about it like that. But it's a good point. Could you imagine for 3 months Donald Trump not being aware?
He can answer directly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly. And then he would surge solutions. But Chris, here we go at the southern border. There are palletfuls of baby formula down there. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's see. These people don't vote, okay? They're not American citizens. Why don't we maybe surge the formula to store shelves for the people that are paying taxes and voting? They will eventually, but maybe not in November. Maybe not in November.
That's right, especially in New York City.
That's right.
In New York City, they do vote. Chris, what do you make of that?
I think, first of all, the former MoveOn.org spokesman is way over her head. She obviously has the job because she checks certain check marks on the boxes, but she's obviously over her head, as I said. This baby formula crisis, I think this is not something that's going to end anytime soon. This Operation Fly Lift, or whatever they're calling it, it's only bringing in 500,000 bottles of baby formula. Yeah. Babies are fed 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. That's not really going to go very far.
They got to hire the person who writes the headlines for the New York Post to do their so they've got Putin price hike and they've got Operation Fly formula.
Right.
This person must be very basic.
You don't want fly in the same title as formula, do you?
Well, because it denotes
but
maybe
the fact
a fly.
Is, somebody from the FDA should be held accountable for this as well, because the FDA is really to blame. They were
partially to blame, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that fair? Partially.
Oh yes, and it shows vast overregulation of this industry, which is really a kind of food. The fact that European formulas were not allowed into this country, not because there's anything wrong with European formula. The FDA had a gripe with the labeling in Europe. Well, fix it.
Yeah.
Don't borrow this enormous supply from solving this problem for so many months because you're quibbling about the labeling.
Yeah, there's a lot of people at fault here, but I just want to hear that the president is addressing it. That's all I want to hear. Just like we're on it.
And he made the comment that he couldn't have foreseen this problem. So you're telling me you knew Abbott Labs were going to close this facility, which produces 40+% of this formula, and you didn't think there'd be a problem? You couldn't predict this? Again, a long line of problems, whether it's Afghanistan, inflation, or this baby formula issue. People tell him and start waving the red flags and say, Mr. President, this is going to happen, and he doesn't do anything about it.
And what's so cynical, really insulting, is that they come up with this flying in the formula. It's like tapping the petroleum reserve. It's a fake remedy, and they think the public is stupid,
and
that we don't know numbers.
The home heating oil reserve as well. It's like, and by the way, has that made any difference? Gas is a new record high today, $4.76 a gallon. So 2 gallons of gas. All right, I'm going to park the car today. I'm not leaving until I have to come back to work on Monday morning.
And the
2 gallons of gas, $10.
And Trump got hammered for putting oil in the strategic oil reserves by Biden and the left. And now they're using it to try and fix the crisis.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay, let's go back to England. Day number 2 of this 4-day jubilee, marking 70 years of Queen Elizabeth II on the throne. The biggest party in England since the end of the Second World War. I heard that yesterday. I liked that. Hogan, you were there when, and she's met 14 British prime ministers and 13 American presidents, every president except LBJ. There's Hogan Gidley. Tell us about what we're looking at here. I know
that was Blenheim Palace. Actually, that was Blenheim Palace, one of the places where that was Buckingham Palace. Myself and Sarah Sanders there. Nothing like those folks giving you cocktails at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Their time, right?
Their time. Yeah, this wasn't 8 o'clock our time. That's where Winston Churchill was born, actually. That's where the ambassador to the United States stays when he's in England, right there. And then, of course, Buckingham Palace. It was unbelievable, just as you would expect. Everything is immaculate. The people were so friendly. But they wanted to put drinks in our hands pretty early in the day.
What kind of drinks, just out of curiosity?
Well, you had to do gin because that was kind of British. But then they had wine as well. And so myself and the folks with the bear hats and some others with big feathered hats, we all sat around at a little lovely luncheon and had a good time waiting for...
Shaken, not stirred over there? Or is that a real thing?
It is a real thing.
That'd be the Chris. Chris laughed at that. Chris, have you been over there ever to London? I've never been to... it's on my list.
I have not. You know, the Queen is 96 years old, and I can understand their concerns about her not wanting to be photographed in a wheelchair and all of that.
Right.
But it seems awfully coincidental that she doesn't show up on the day that Harry and Meghan Markle are scheduled.
That's
and
a good
they're in the second row. They were kind of banished to the second row.
Kind of banished?
Yeah, because here they are, they're royals, and they decided, like some people in the U.S. are doing, they decided that they don't want to work as royals. They're going to work from home and cash in with Hollywood instead. Can you imagine?
Right.
So they want all the perks of being royals, all the status, and a lot of money.
And it's a real shame for the Queen because this was about her, right? This was about her accomplishments. And now what we have, because she can't be there today, the focus is kind of on her, but then we have to focus on the drama with the royal family.
And I think, don't
That's
forget, Charles and Diana got married at this same church, St. Paul's.
Sure.
And obviously that, but I just think it's fascinating that we know this is a real family. There are problems like any other family. Just quickly, about a minute left. So, Hogan, President Trump had a pretty unique relationship with Queen Elizabeth II. And this is just my judging based on the photos. There always is, they're giggling, sort of. What was that dynamic like?
Always together. Better for both of them. They laughed quite a bit. They made jokes with each other. It was a very cordial relationship. The folks in England would tell me they'd never seen the Queen this happy. When you have, and you know, when they keep showing the pictures of the baby, who's the one that's screaming, Louis, right? I think his mom had leaned down and said Biden may be coming next. And I think he just started screaming. That was what his face was. But they had a great relationship.
Don't forget also Trump was a great respecter of Winston Churchill.
Of course.
Unlike Barack Obama, who had no respect at all for Winston Churchill. Yeah. And this Queen loved Winston Churchill.
That was her first
prime minister. Right.
And then
I also have to say, St. Paul's, what a wonderful place. It is, to me, the most wonderful place in London because of the American chapel there that pays homage to the American soldiers who rescued Britain during World War II.
Wow.
And you talk to a cabbie in England, One night I was over there, and he said, if you have time, I'm going to turn off the meter and take you to a place you'll really love. And he drove me to the American Chapel at St. Paul's.
Oh,
I'll
Betsy,
never forget it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how far we've come 240 plus years later. We're celebrating the British monarch. But don't forget, we've got America because we fought a revolution against that same.
They tried to take our guns away.
That's right.
exactly
That's what they wanted to do.
They were wearing red coats at the time, and yeah, that's why we have a Second Amendment right there. But that's an important part of the story as well. Panel, really enjoyed the conversation this morning. Betsy McCoy, Hogan Gidley, Chris Arps, good to see you as always.